right, good morning. My name is Samantha Mirabal with Milka's application team. We're doing our design shop talk today to see what questions you guys might have, try to get them answered for you. Oops, my slide has the wrong date on it, so I'm going to quick fix that because it will confuse everyone later. There we go, save. All right, so I'm going to start off with the questions that were sent in ahead of time and get those answered. And there's only a few. If you have questions while we're live, please type them in on the chat. I see them pop up on my other monitor. I don't get private messages, so don't send them that way. Just type them in on the chat, and I'll see if we can do them live for you. All right, so let's go ahead and jump on in. How do you export text or other designs in GIF format? So, yeah, this one I've been playing around with a little bit. There is a size limit to the GIF formats that you can save off. So if you're larger than the maximum size limit, it's not going to save it. So you'll have to use a DST or another format type. And that format is, I took a picture of the size. The max size is like 5 by 7. So 5 by 7 hoop. So any bigger than that, it's going to tell you it can't save it off. So you'd want to use a DST Fire EXP or whatever other formats that machine will use. But that's typically how you save off a GIF file, is you just literally go open up what you want, do File, Save As, change this over to, not a JPEG, excuse me, a GIF file, and save it. Okay. As long as it's small, it'll save it. If it's big, it's not going to save it. Like, for instance, this one, I saved this one off. So as long as it's centered, File, Save As, save it as a GIF, not a JPEG. Can you tell I save JPEGs a lot? Because that's what I keep on wanting to do. So it'll ask you what hoop size, and it will save that file off as a GIF file for you. Okay, so if your design is larger than that or not centered in that area, it's not going to save it as a GIF format. Okay. Let's see, what other things do we have? Can you add fonts that are purchased online to the font box? Not really. Now that's a feature that's been added to version 12 that's coming out in a few weeks. So I know they've already done pre-orders and other stuff on it, but in V11, V10, no. You bring the letters in one at a time and line them up however you want them, but they're not typable fonts. That's specifically when you buy fonts that aren't computer-based, when you buy them that are digitized one letter at a time, so you end up getting 120 individual DST files or individual PES files, whatever format you chose. You get each letter, each character is its own individual file. Those are not typable, okay? So those you bring in one at a time. Like I said, but that is a feature that's in version 12, so that's cool. Is it possible to get a tutorial on how to make a double applique? I recently did that, I want to say 2 weeks ago in the Design Shop Talk, but I'll do it again in a second. And then this other one, can you show us all the decorative stitches? You know, how can I see them all at once? So let's go look at that. All right, so there's this guy right here. Select Automatic Custom Shape Input Tool. When you click on that, you can go to decorative stitches, and it will load all the decoratives. So these are all the decorative stitches, and I can see them all to be able to decide which one I want. Okay, so that's all the decoratives, including the ones I've made. Like that Scribble Scrabble is one I did. Where else? I'm pretty sure my horse is in here. So yeah, my horse is there. That EKG I did. What else? The Christmas tree is another, the chains. So those are all ones that I've done and added. Oh, that ugly one. That one was a mess. I was trying something different. It didn't work well. Anyway, so you can see all the decorative stitches down here to be able to use them, right? So then when you go, you can say, all right, I really liked how the braid looked. So I can just go select the braid and draw it. And there you go. Okay. So that's what all these are. Okay. So that's the easy way to see all your decorative stitches. As far as a double applique, all right. I'm going to do it around a name. Yeah, why don't we do this? All right, so I'm going to draw my name. I'm going to center it. I'm going to close this so I have more space. And yeah, so object, generate basting primer, because I'm going to do this the quick way. I'm going to say 50 points. There we go. I'm going to delete one of those. So right now all I'm doing is drawing shapes. So then I'm going to copy that guy, paste that guy, do object, offset outline, and let's say another 50 points. Okay. So what did I do here? I just created 2 shapes that I can now do stuff with. So first off, if I'm doing this as an applique with text on it, let's say I want one color there and one color on the inside. So I'm going to go ahead and just convert these over into vectors by selecting the shape, holding the control key, and clicking on that vector. All right. So there we have it. Let's say that's what you want. You want one color material there, another color material there, and then I'm going to sew text on top of it. Okay. So let's create the file that we would use as an applique. So I'd want this fabric down first, right? So I'm going to turn that into an applique by holding let's do it I'll do it multiple ways. So right here I have change element from one type to another. All right, so I'm going to click on that and say walk normal, add. Okay, so that's my very first step. All right, so when I go to sew it, I'm going to hoop my garment and I'm going to sew that down. Okay, now I'm going to go grab a piece of fabric. I'm going to pretend my green piece of paper here. All right, so you're going to take your fabric and then lay it over top of that. So you just saw my green piece of fabric there. So we're going to pretend this is that. And practically speaking, when you go to sew it, now I've got my garment with a line sewn on it, and I've laid some fabric over top. And so I've got fabric laid over top. So what do I do next? I'm going to, again, copy the stitch, paste it, and I'm going to sew it again. So now I've got a big rectangle of fabric sewn down in my hoop. Okay, grab your scissors, cut around it, and that leaves you with this. Now I've got a green piece of fabric sewn down and cut out in my hoop. Okay, so now what do we do? So that's step 1. Step 2, I really don't want it going anywhere, so I'm going to, again, click on this guy, change element from one type to another, say single line, add, and let's just change that to a tackle and make it wider. All right, so that would be my 3rd step. Cool. All right, so I just sewed some fabric down to my hoop. Well, now I need the 2nd shape, which is this guy. We're going to do those same steps again to sew that 2nd piece of fabric down on top, right? So take my shape. This time, instead of using change element from one type to another, I'm going to click shift and click. So shift and click on walk normal. So there's my placement stitch, right? So again, I'll just sew that down. Now I'm going to go grab my next color fabric and lay it again over top my hoop. So now my hoop physically looks like this, right? So I'm going to then take that same step, copy and paste, and run that on the machine. All right, so now I've got a big old piece of fabric sewn down on top of another piece of fabric. Grab my scissors, cut around the shape. All right, so now what you're left with is this. I've got fabric sewn on top of fabric. Okay, so that was the walk, the placement stitch. I again want to do that tackle stitch. So I'm going to hold my shift key down. So instead of using this and saying add a satin stitch, I'm going to hold shift, which is same as add, and click on the satin stitch. Again, change that to tackle, change that to 30. Cool. All right, so now I've got 2 pieces of fabric sewn down. So that's what's next, right? So then I sew my text. So placement, tack down, tackle stitch, placement, tack down, tackle stitch. Do my decorations. If this is going on the garment, I'll be honest, I would have just gone ahead and done the satin stitch at this point, just so I don't risk having shifts. So I would have done that satin stitch right after the tackle. And then same with this guy. I would copy and paste, change that back to a satin, and make that 40. Clearly I should have left more space there. but you know, you get the idea. Okay, so I would have done those and then this. That's just my personal preference. You know, if I'm going to do borders, I'd rather finish as we go. So how do you set it up on your actual machine? Okay, I only have part of the screenshot, but you'll get the idea. So when you go into your color changes, so every time I need to do something where I'm laying that fabric on top of my hoop, or I'm taking the hoop off so I can cut around it. So anytime you just need the machine to stop, so that I can do something, you can either use hold or applique. So I use applique. So applique takes the pantograph, which is the thing that the hoop clips into and moves around. That's the XY motion. That's a pantograph, right? So the applique takes sends it to the center and advances it forward, pushing the hoop out from under the needle case. Okay, so that's what I use personally. So it's literally you set color 1, applique, color 2, applique, wherever you want it to stop. So if I go back to my design that we just did, where do I want my applique stops? Well, I'm going to sew this, and then I need it to stop because I got to lay fabric down. So I do color 1, applique, color 2, applique, because now I got to cut the fabric out. Then I'd probably just go sew color 3 and sew color 4, because that's my placement stitch. Now I do applique, sew this one, applique, and then so I can cut out the fabric, and then I'll just finish the design. So, you know, you're not doing applique after every step. You're thinking about the steps you want to do. And that's literally what you do. Then you put it in your machine and run it. Okay. All right, so any other questions? Let's see, what else do we have? All right, so yeah, so we did that. We talked about that, and this. So I don't have any other questions. Does anyone have any questions while we're live? Otherwise, I guess I can quick go fix this so we have more of a border, and then you'll see it one more time. So this one's kind of small, so I'm going to do object offset and do another 50 points there. So now shift click, copy paste, except I want these to go first. Stop it. I'm going to move those guys up, give it a separate color. Then I'm going to hold my shift key, click on this, make it a tackle, 30. There we go. And then I copy paste, make that a satin stitch of 40. There we go. All right, so at least now you can see the fabric. All right. So, you know, whatever you want for your double applique, you can do things like that. Okay. All right. What, any other questions before we call it a day? Let's see. Yep, and we're live on both the channels, so I did miss that. All right. Well, next week we'll be back on Thursday. I know we're getting a few more weeks and V12 will be out, so that's pretty cool. I'll have that once it's out instead of V11, so get to see what the fun is there. Short of that, have a fantastic weekend. Next week I'll be back on Thursday and answer whatever questions you might have. I did have a project that I finished recording and making videos for, so now I just got to put it all together into one video instead of 10. So I'll try to get that done this week. It's a bit hectic in our household here. We've got nothing good, but it's all right. So it works out. All right, everyone, have a fantastic weekend. I will talk to you next week. Till then, bye.